Okay, so it looks like we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's Tuesday Travel Tips. We're trying it tonight at a slightly later time than normal. We've been doing them at lunchtime normally, but with people now moving back to work, we kind of thought it would be an idea to move it to the evening so more people get a chance to come on and watch the live if they want to. So welcome if you are joining us. So Dave and I kind of have a bit of a conversation on a Monday to decide what we're going to talk about on a Tuesday as we plan so far ahead. And we had a conversation yesterday and decided that actually today what we were going to talk about was actually our trips themselves and look at some of our trekking trips and talk about them and answer any questions you might have on those trips, and just kind of talk about which trips we enjoy and why we enjoy them and which ones we would recommend going on. Obviously we'd recommend going on all of them, but for some some of them are better for others if you've never done these sorts of trips before, and that's kind of why we thought we discussed that. So between both Dave and I, we've done all of the trips that we do in the Bucket List Company, and obviously there are plenty of other companies that do very similar trips to us as well. So if you are not coming with us and you are going with another company and you have a question, we will probably be able to answer it for you. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll answer them as we go along. But the Bucket List Company itself now, we've got 28 different trips that we offer, and most of them, the majority of them are trekking trips, and we kind of started off with trekking trips really. And if we go to you to start with then, Dave, like if you were to choose a trekking trip for you to start with, which one do you sort of recommend to people as you're trekking along with them?
I'm really clear about this. You say it all the time, but I've experienced it so many times now. I think our trek in Morocco to Mount Toubkal is just a brilliant starter. If you've done a bit of walking, fell walking, that kind of thing, it takes you to another dimension. But and this is the thing, I think we both of us feel this, a couple of hours on the plane and you're in a completely different culture. The hurly-burly of Marrakesh is very exciting, but if you love the countryside and nature, just getting out into the foothills of the Mount Toubkal and the High Atlas and walking out there through tiny villages, very, very, very rural, tiny little schools, children running about, not really meeting many other Europeans. I know we're not going to be Europeans forever, I understand that, but not meeting many other Europeans. It's just a very different experience. And, I don't like the term culture shock really, but it's, for me, I'm always jarred the minute I go out there, and it's in a nice way. It's like going to paradise. So I would really recommend that. It's a lovely gradual start, ease in, and then you've got the achievement of, you have a bit of a hard slog, but the summit of Mount Toubkal, the highest mountain in the High Atlas in North Africa. I mean, what's not to like? And the views are usually fantastic up there. And even if you have bad weather, you still got such a rugged approach. It's just another dimension. I really think it's a great starter for people who want to get up a mountain, but in a different country.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think I've just put a link in the comments now to the trek that Dave's talking about. And we do two treks to Toubkal. We do the winter trek, which is a slightly different trek than our standard Mount Toubkal trek. But I agree with you on the Morocco as a whole. Really, I think it gives you such a short flight to get there, and it's a great 7-day It's a great 7-day, 8-day trip. I mean, we've just had a question here. Do you have a trip that combines both the Sahara and the Toubkal trips together? We don't at the minute, because that would make it into quite a long trip. Because both of the Toubkal trip's an 8-day trip, the Sahara trip's a 9-day trip. So to combine, obviously there's a bit of time in Marrakesh there, but you would probably still need that bit of time in Marrakesh between the two treks. But if you were interested in doing that, I mean, it's something we could certainly sort out for you. And the way that I would recommend doing that is to come and do our Sahara trek with us. And then we could certainly sort out a Toubkal trek for you afterwards then, where you could go off and do that yourself. And obviously we could put that, if that was something you're interested in, we could certainly put that out to our list and see if anybody else wanted to join you on that trip. And, the Toubkal trip is great. It's a brilliant trip. But then for some people, if you've not been at altitude before, if you don't really want to go to altitude, then the Sahara trip is a great trekking trip. If you want to go and do some multi-day trekking, most people go and climb go out and do a day's walking in the UK. But the problem with our treks is like we were discussing last week when we did our fitness talk. The problem with any of these treks is we can all go out and do a 12, 15K walk for one day, but it's actually getting up and doing it the next day and the next day and the next day. Yeah. The Sahara trek is great for that, because apart from the first day where we have a slight incline to go up, actually the rest of it is all flat. It's from that perspective, it is a really good trek to go and do. Wouldn't you say, Dave? I
would say that. And when you say flat, that sounds like boring. It is far from boring. It's a real contrast to our mountain type treks. And again, you're in Morocco, you're in the wild, you're camping out under the stars, just a fire, camels circling the camp. It's just another experience altogether. And when you get to the dunes and climb some of the highest dunes and get to the top, and you just see the Sahara going off to Algeria and places like that, it just I think in our bucket list quarterly magazine, one of the ladies who came last time wrote about what she actually felt inside, sort of spiritually about it. It's such a different kind of trek, and physically, it's not as demanding as
climbing a mountain, but you still have to put the mileage in, really.
It's 80 kilometers across 4 days, so it's not an easy task, and you're walking in the heat, and you're camping out, so it's certainly not an easy challenge, but from the perspective of multi-day trekking, it's a great one to start with.
The last group we took were bar one were all females, weren't they? Women of all different ages, and they for various reasons, I think, got a lot out of it. And some of them this was their first adventure, I think. In their
Sian's just joined us on the. I've just seen Sian.
There's an adventure.
I mean, it was Sian's first ever time sleeping in a tent, so it was definitely an adventure for Sian on that one. So the Sahara is a great one to start with, and again, you can get that one done in pretty much a week. So someone's just asked about how safe is Marrakesh. On your app, it warns of kidnappings. Obviously, on our app, we just link to the Foreign Commonwealth Office, and that's what they suggest. I think Marrakesh is perfectly safe. I've never had any issues in Marrakesh whatsoever. We take lots of groups out to Marrakesh, and they, from females, walk around in pairs on their own and have no issues. You might have people haggling a little bit with you when you're going through the shops and the markets, but that's all I've really seen. I've never had any more than that. What about you, Dave?
I've not seen any problems at all. You do get the occasional trader will come up to you, but actually you just say no thanks and walk away. And women certainly, I mean, I just think that last Sahara group that were out on their own in the middle of Marrakesh, just no problem. My 20-year-old daughter, when she was 20 and I hadn't been to Marrakesh, I was a bit worried because of that same advice. And I talked to Keith about it, and he said, well, you're going to go there shortly. But she was going before me in the summer, and she went with a friend, both 20 years old, and they had not a problem at all. I went on to Casablanca and Agadir and various places. No problem at all.
Just say a quick hello to Tony Pearson. Tony's watching us, one of our leaders. I tried to get Tony to come on this call today, but he's driving through Spain at the minute, so he couldn't commit to coming on with a dodgy internet signal, because Tony's done quite a lot of our treks as well, so he would have been a good person to come on and give some advice on this.
I expect he hasn't got his stage makeup with him. That's the problem.
No, probably not. Someone's just asked there about what was the answer to the question about the Sahara and the Toubkal trek. Do we combine them? And the answer to that one was, at the minute we don't combine them because it would make it quite a long trek. But what we did say was actually the easiest way around that, if you wanted to go to Morocco and do both of them, was if you came on our Sahara trek and did that with us, and then we would then sort everything out for you to then go off and do a Toubkal trek afterwards. And obviously there's a couple of people there that might be interested in that, so that could be a possibility in the future. And then someone else just said about the Sahara is more stones than sand, Dave. Obviously that's what I always say, so
yeah, it is. It's largely a stony desert, but when you get to end of day 3, you are near the highest sand dunes, and you actually camp below them in the Sahara Desert. And when you climb those when you arrive, if you want to, we don't make people do that, and watch the sunset, and you're watching the sunset over the whole of the sandy Sahara Desert. So yes, you are walking on small stones and pebbles and things like that. I don't think even I could walk. I say even I, but being quite fit at this, wouldn't want to walk 8 days through sand. I know that, but you very rapidly get to what's in your mind's eye as a desert. That's absolutely true. And then from day 3, 4 onwards, actual trekking days, you're near the sand and all the time, but you're actually walking on in firmer valleys. So that's the answer, really.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's only when you get into the camps in the evenings, isn't it? It's the bits of the sand that we actually see, really.
Yeah, and it depends what you're going for, some of this, really, isn't it? Because if you want to be away from the hurly-burly and other people and all the rest of it and out in the wilds, that is what you have got. If you're interested in deserts and like when you go to the Lake District, the kind of formation of the hills or rest of it, well, the desert's got all of that. I mean, for one part, we walked down an ancient dry riverbed which has been worn smooth. I don't know how wide it is, I can't tell you, but it's been worn smooth through eons and eons, and there are isolated little pools in it with frogs living in them in the middle of the desert. There's just so much. It depends what ticks your box, really. I love it all of it. There's a whole variety of it. I love the wilderness, the isolation, certainly the nights when you're lying outside looking at the stars. I mean,
yeah, you don't see skies like you do.
No words for that.
So I suppose then, we both kind of agree that actually, if you are looking to do a first trekking trip, then I think both of our suggestions would be either one would be go to Morocco and then choose whether or not you want to do the Toubkal trip or you want to do the Sahara trip as a first trip. Really, I think they're a great starter point for your first bucket list trip. Really.
Yeah, I agree. So
And I suppose that they're kind of like our short treks in essence, aren't they? So both the Toubkal trek and the Sahara trek are both 4 days worth of trekking. So they are the shortest treks that we do. Other short treks are our Peru treks. So our Machu Picchu Inca Trail treks. They're all around 4 or 5 days, whether or not you're going to do the Lares trek, the Inca Trail trek, or the Salcantay trek. All of those are 4 or 5 days. We could go on for ages talking about those ones, and if Machu Picchu is on your bucket list, then I would certainly suggest going and doing a trek to there, rather than just arriving in Cusco and getting the train up to Machu Picchu. So that would be my kind of. So someone's just asked there, on the winter trek, do you get clear skies at night, Dave?
We went February before last, and it varied. Now it can vary, so I have to tell you this. But when we went, we had what are called bluebird days. The days it was high pressure, dark blue skies during the day, almost like looking into outer space. And at night, I think I'm sure there's a picture somewhere on the website. At night, absolutely, the stars shining so in a really black sky. There was some snow, and that was when we actually got onto Toubkal itself. But the approach, there was none. I mean, there were chilly days. If you sat in the sun out of the wind, it was lovely. But there were chilly days, very crisp. But the winter climb, the Toubkal climb, icy cold air, and you've got to think, right, I'm going to be wrapped up warm for this, and can I do it? But we had absolutely fantastically clear, frosty, hard weather.
I'm just sharing a photo there from our Instagram. So that's taken from the Berber House, looking up away from Toubkal, but that was kind of the skies that we were getting on that night. Yeah. You can just see the Milky Way going up through the middle. So we sat out there in our sleeping bags on a mat, watching the shooting stars go past that night, didn't we, Dave?
We did. We did, and it was like that because there was hardly any moon. The moon was rising much later at night. So you have got, you take that into account. But if the moon's not there, that's what you see. I mean, I know it sounds like it's all been made up, doesn't it? But that's what you see. It's incredible. And shooting stars, you just lose count. I've never seen so many. Really. That's where I
on that trip, it definitely was. So if we're going to, we've kind of covered off the short trips there, Dave. Yeah. So the 4-day treks, and if anyone's got any questions on any of the Peru trips, please just ask them in the comments if you're interested in that. But if we were then to go on to our longer trips, our more high altitude trips, where would you start, Dave?
Oh, now I think this. You're asking where I would start. I think this is difficult, really, because it's a bucket list company, and people do have their bucket list, and they want to tick things off, and well-known things. So you have, immediately what comes to mind is Kilimanjaro. That's something that many people. It's just in the, that's the highest freestanding mountain. I've got to get up there. So that comes to mind, and of course the other one and I'm reminding of one of our clients who said to me, I've been dying to do this since I was 11 years old. I'm now 45, is Everest Base Camp. I mean, people have dreams about Everest Base Camp. It's just in the popular imagination. So if you want to do either of those two, they're so different and so rewarding. If you ask me what I would like to do, which you did do, I like to be slightly more, I like Nepal a lot, and I like to be slightly more remote than Everest Base Camp. So I like the Annapurna trek, but I've done Everest Base Camp. And if you ask me tomorrow, Dave, go and do Everest Base Camp, I'd be over the moon, So don't,
They're all, you've got a big choice there. Three, and they're quite different, actually, aren't they? I mean, you know a lot about Kilimanjaro, don't you?
Yeah. So, I mean, Kilimanjaro is, you always see it on the telly. It's always on the charities and all of that, and it's really accessible. And like you say, the thing about Kilimanjaro is it is a mountain, and you do get to stand on the top. It's a bit like Mount Toubkal. You feel you've achieved something when you get there. It's got a point to it. It's got a finish to it, and you get there. Jay's just said there that he would like to do Island Peak as the trip that he would like to do. And again, if you're doing Everest Base Camp, you can add the Island Peak trek onto the end of it. And a lot of people like to go and do both. They like to get to the summit of something. And Kilimanjaro, certainly does tick that. And obviously, we have got our guide on Kilimanjaro, and you can grab yourself a copy of this if you haven't already got one. It tells you everything that you do need to know about Kilimanjaro, and I'll just put a link into the feed now. And then if you are interested in Kilimanjaro, if you haven't grabbed this quarter's bucket lister, obviously because we haven't actually run any trips this month, we have done a Tanzania special, and actually done quite a bit in there about Kilimanjaro as well. So you can go onto the website and grab yourself one of those. The differences between Kilimanjaro and trekking in the Himalayas is obviously the scenery, in the sense of Kilimanjaro is a freestanding mountain in the middle of Tanzania, and there is nothing else around it. There is one mountain, and that's it, and you are on it. But walking through the mountains and trekking in the mountains in Nepal is just absolutely stunning. I mean, someone's just asked there, is Kilimanjaro much harder than Mount Toubkal? And actually, the answer to that is, I don't think it is. I've got a friend of mine who's done Kilimanjaro twice with me now, and she's also come on and done Mount Toubkal. And the summit night at Mount Toubkal, she actually thought it was actually a harder trek for her than summiting Kilimanjaro. The only difference is the altitude. You're going to feel the altitude a lot more on Kilimanjaro. It's 1,800 meters difference between the two, and that's quite a lot. Bearing in mind, you can summit Kilimanjaro in 4 days, which is almost the same time as you're on Mount Toubkal for. So Greg, evening, Greg. Nice to hear from you. Greg's done a couple of trips with us. Greg's done Mount Toubkal, and he's done Everest Base Camp. And obviously, what Greg's talking about there is going up to Kalapatar on the Everest Base Camp trek. So actually, the peak of Kalapatar, that's included, Jay, in the Everest Base Camp trek. So you summit Everest Base Camp one day, come back to Gorak Shep, stay there for the night, and if you wanted to do the Kalapatar trek in the morning, you can get up, trek up to the peak there. And actually, being stood on Kalapatar is it gives you the best view of Everest itself, because to be fair, you don't actually really see that much of Everest from Everest Base Camp. It's kind of it's hidden, but you do get the best view of it from Kalapatar. So, but like I say, that is included and most companies do include that in their itineraries. Some include it in the same day. We split it over 2 days. So someone's asked there about the differences between EBC and Annapurna. Then, Dave, do you want to leave that one off?
Yeah, okay. There's an obvious difference to start with, and that is Annapurna is a circuit. You're not going up, ascending to 5,300 meters ish, and then coming back again. you actually go over 5,400 meters, which is the highest navigable pass in the world, they tell you, and down over it towards a sort of more Tibetan landscape, and then around. So you're doing a circuit, and that's that circuit. So you're not facing oncoming traffic because we're all going the same way. It is in parts, I feel, far more rural than the Everest Base Camp trek. So you do get quite close to the people. I don't mean that in any derogatory sense. You're close, and again, there's small children, and there's a lot of, there can be quite, through the tiny little villages, quite a lot of engagement with people, and I really like that. So it's a circuit. You never see the same thing twice. After about day 3, you've got Annapurna 2, 3, 4, Gangapurna, Dalagiri, all these mountains. If you don't think about mountains, 8,000 meter mountains just coming at you every day, and you're walking right beside them. It's not a distant thing at all. You're on the other side of the valley, and that mountain is right next to you. So you see the avalanches as they happen, and all safely because it's the other side of the valley. But it's a wilder experience, I think. But safe, and you looked after in the same kind of way as Everest Base Camp. Welcoming tea houses and beds to sleep on. You're not camping, so those things are the same. But it's just more remote, slightly more remote.
I mean, that is the nice thing about trekking in Nepal, Dave, isn't it? It is different to trekking, Kilimanjaro. You are staying in tea houses every night. You're getting to choose your meal off a menu. You have breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner in the tea houses. So, I mean, they're a lot longer. You're trekking sort of 12, 13 days on those treks.
Yeah.
But at least you've got a bit more home comfort, if you like, than you have on on the like the Peru treks and the Kilimanjaro treks, where you're in a tent or. Yes,
there are more home comforts, and again, you're experiencing a different way of living. You had a tea house, you have some lovely food. It's getting very cold outside. It's quite warm in the tea house, and you realise they're burning yak dung, not logs or wood. And then the yak dung runs out, and then you all go to bed. It's a simple life as well. But you are well fed and well looked after, and the guides. I mean, that's a consistent thing with all of these. You get so close to the guides, and they look after you. They love you almost. They look after you so well, and they notice everything. If you're limping a bit, they notice it, and they look after you.
Yes. Jamie just asked a question: do we do Bolivia trips? The answer to that one at the minute is no. We don't do any trips to Bolivia. However, we did have a meeting amongst the team last week when we came back into the office and looking at new destinations, and Bolivia was one of the new destinations because at the minute we only really do Peru in South America. So we are looking at some Patagonia trips and also a trip to Bolivia. So keep your eyes peeled on that one. Someone's just asked about Annapurna Base Camp trek, Dave. Obviously, we don't do the Annapurna Base Camp trek at the minute, and it's not we haven't got it in the pipeline to do at the minute. But we try and add a few more every year, and if we get enough interest in it, then obviously we will look at it. But I think at the minute the Annapurna Circuit trek is kind of a great one for us, really.
Again, if you do the base camp, you're going to go there and come back, and it's lovely and it's fantastic. But again, it depends what people go on our trips. Everyone seems to have a slightly different motivation, and again, Keith asked me what I like. I like seeing something new every day and moving on. That's what you get with the base camp. So the circuit, and you also get you move through 4 climatic zones. You move from the sort of the Hindu side
to a Tibetan side, which is very dry. You end up walking past the Kingdom of Mustang, which was, you know, a place you could never even go into, you know, till 10, 15 years ago. And you walk right past it, just over the river, and you see the caves where people live. Yeah, it depends what you're going for. Depends what you're going for. And if it's just to go up to somewhere and come back, and that's fantastic, and I love that as well. But you know, you have to choose a trip that actually is going to motivate you.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? You know, we're kind of, you know, what someone's just asked a question here, Dave, like, what is the success rate for summiting Island Peak? I don't know what the overall success rate is for it. And if Tony was on, Tony's done our last 2 Island Peak trips for us. I mean, I know 2 years ago, he took quite a small team up Island Peak. I think there was 5 of them, and of the 5, 4 of them summited. And then last year, I think they had, I mean, they had a really big team went up last year. I think there was like 18 of them on that trip. We had Gareth and Tony out on that one. And I think I know there was only one that actually, there was 3 that didn't actually start to go up because they felt bad before they started. So 3 of them didn't leave the base camp. And then there was another one who actually turned away just before the head wall and came back down again. So of the 18, 14 of them summited Island Peak. So, you know, the success rate is actually quite good in that sense. I don't know what the overall success rate is, but it was, you know, fairly high in that respect. Like I say, a couple of them, you know, were quite rough, but they'd been to Everest Base Camp, come back down, and a few of them had the Cumber cough and didn't want to go any further. So yeah, I mean, Island Peak's a great mountain. And again, you know, you get the best of both worlds with the Everest Base Camp Island Peak, because you get to go to Everest Base Camp and tick that off your bucket list. But on the way back, you also get to summit a 6,000 meter mountain as well. Yeah. And with Island Peak, it is classed as it's still classed as a trekking peak. So you don't really need any special training before you go. All the training is given to you at base camp before you start up. You do need to have a helmet, a harness, a pair of crampons. There are ropes, ladders set up, but you know, it's fairly simple in the mountaineering terms, if you like. It's a very challenging trek, but you know, from a mountaineering, you don't need a great deal of experience in mountaineering to go and do it. It's a great one to start with if you're thinking about, you know, going to that next step. You know, if you've done Kilimanjaro, then Island Peak is a great next step. As is Mount Elbrus, which is what we haven't spoke about yet. Mount Elbrus, you know, the highest mountain in Europe, although it is in Russia, it is still classed as our highest mountain in Europe. That's a great 10-day trek. Again, very simple mountaineering skills needed, but again, all taught to you before you start the trek up. The nice thing about Elbrus is, you know, you do quite a lot of your acclimatization walks from the hotel. And, you know, you only actually stay up at the refuge the night before you summit. Tony's just put a piece of advice up there. You know, this is about Island Peak, beautiful summit, great view, be relatively fit to increase your chance of success, which, you know, we always promote that in that sense anyway, really. You know, the fitter you are, the easier it will be for you and the more chance you have of success on it. Doesn't Tony look young in that photo there? Look, you know,
lovely hair.
Well, he ain't got hair like that anymore. So, yeah. So Elbrus is a great trek. and another one that, you know, a lot of people are adding to their bucket lists now. And if you've, like I say, if you've done Everest Base Camp or you've done Kilimanjaro, it is kind of like the next step on if you're looking to do something else, really. We've actually got next year, we've got quite a big trip booked on for our Elbrus trip in July. What about talking about the best time to do some of these trips, Dave? Like, you know, times of the year to do them, because you can almost get a couple done in a year, really, can't you? You know, because the season's moving.
Yeah, and it depends on the season. If the Himalayan treks are the beginning of the year or the end of the year, so you're talking October, or you're talking sort of March, April time. In between times, they have the monsoon, and they're having it very badly actually at the moment, aren't they? In the south. Which is just rain, and also if you're in up high, heaps and heaps and heaps of snow. So those are good times. We've talked about Toubkal. We're talking about Aprilish time, aren't we, Keith? And late September, October.
You just want to be outside of that summer heat, really.
Yeah. There, it's the heat. It's the heat. You're going to miss that. Obviously, the winter ascent of Toubkal and Sahara are sort of, you know, much earlier in the year, February time. February again, the Sahara, you're avoiding the heat because you wouldn't survive 2 minutes in June. And also, obviously, you want the ice and the cold to get up Toubkal safely. Yes, so those are good times. But Keith, while we're on, we're sort of building up, you know, ramping up the kind of challenge here, really. You know, so Kilimanjaro, Elbrus, up and up and up and up and up, but you have got some other trips which are not necessarily treks, but trips which are more leisurely, haven't you? Which I've not had an opportunity to go on because. But they're more leisurely, and they are becoming more and more attractive as well, aren't they? People go for different reasons again.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, like, you know, we did want to start looking at different trips. And, you know, obviously we've got our scuba diving trip, you know, teaching people to scuba dive in Gozo. We've got, again, our Morocco. We've got some more trips out in Morocco. So we do our whitewater rafting one in Morocco.
Yeah.
We've got and also like our multi-activity trips as well. So we, you know, things like Croatia. We have got a Best of Nepal trip now, which takes in the whole of Nepal. That has a short 4-day trek within that trip, but, you know, very leisurely, up trekking towards the Annapurna region, up by Pokhara. And then they go up to Chitwan and do the safari in Chitwan and see the sights there. Croatia multi-activity, so snorkeling, trekking, mountain biking,
kayaking,
rafting, kayaking. So yeah, so there are lots of different options when it comes to bucket list trips. Obviously, we started out as a predominantly trekking company, but as things have moved, it's great that we get a lot of repeat business. So we have got to start introducing more trips, because we need to keep giving trips for our customers to do, really, and also to keep us guides interested as well of going to different places.
Yeah. I think you're finding that some people who've individually done treks have want to introduce their families to it too, haven't you? And they're finding those kind of trips are a good way of doing that, you know, with young children and the rest of it. Yeah,
definitely. I think, you know, the people want to travel, and actually people want to travel, and actually group travel is more, you know, for some people, they want to have a group around them. They want to do things in a group. And that's where we come in, really. You know, we all, you know, our kind of motto is we provide bucket list adventures through small group travel. And for us, it's, you know, we get such different clientele on our trips. And that's what makes our trips, really. You know, you could have an 18-year-old and you could have a 72-year-old on the same trip, but everyone gets on so well. Someone's just asked, has anyone done the diving trip? Yeah. I don't know if anyone, if you're asking if anyone here has done the diving trip on this page. I'm not sure if anyone has done it from this group here that's watching at the minute, but we've run several diving trips to Gozo. Unfortunately, we had to postpone one due to COVID back in June. But I'm really tempted to put another diving trip on in sort of, at the minute, Malta has an air corridor and we can visit Malta at the minute, and it all seems to be quite stable. I'm thinking about maybe putting a last minute scuba diving trip on September, October time, just so people can get away and do stuff. But we had 18 people on that trip last year in June. And, that's one of my favorite trips to run, that one of taking people scuba diving. Someone's just asked, do we do a rock climbing experience? Tony will jump on that in a second. Actually, when we first started the Bucket List Company, we did try and do a climbing trip out to Spain, but it never really took off. And it's one thing that, Tony lives in Spain. One of our guides lives in Spain and works out in Spain as a climbing instructor. So it's one thing. And if you look behind me behind my window, you'll see our climbing wall here in our office. So we do come from a climbing background. So it would be great to get a trip out climbing in Spain. It's something that we could quite easily put on if we had the interest from people. So maybe that's something. Obviously, Spain's not the place to be going at the minute, but hopefully soon we can get back out there again. Do you fancy leading that? Do you fancy leading that one, Dave?
Going out and seeing Tony would be great. Yeah, lovely. Well, being a member of the climbing club here, it's my roots are in that too, that and alpine climbing. So it's be fantastic to do. We just have to see if we can get some interest in it, really. Because I know we tried before. It didn't really, not enough people kind of interested. Wasn't a goer, but maybe it's something we should try again. I'm glad it's been raised, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I think now we've got a much bigger pool of people to go out to actually see if that could be a possibility.
Yeah.
So yeah, we could, and the other thing as well is actually, we could even tie that into, almost a bit of a training weekend as well, because the trekking's great out there. We could do some of the mountain courses. So don't tell Dave he's always welcome, Tony. Like I need to keep him here. Like, he'll just move back to Spain otherwise. So there's a few people there then that look like they might want to do an introduction to or a climbing trip. And that's the great thing about Spain as well, climbing out. Tony's based out in the Costa Blanca. Just
wonderful.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those trips that's super simple, isn't it? You can fly into Alicante Airport. Everyone could fly from a local airport to them, and you're in the mountains within 40 minutes. And the beer's always cold, and it's just a nice place to be. So, okay, well, maybe we'll have a chat about that one tomorrow, Dave, and see if we're jacked up for that one then.
Yeah.
Carol's just put again, bizarrely, I'm not great in the water, but the diving trip looked amazing. You're a diver, Dave. I'm a diver. What would you say to somebody who's not great in the water but likes the look of a diving trip?
Yeah, this comes up again and again and again, and I've done lots of diving around the world. So has Keith. We've been with groups and with friends, and what is really obvious. You do not have to be a great swimmer at all, as long as you're not frightened of the water, and then you could even build up tolerance to it. As long as you're not frightened of the water, because of the equipment you're wearing, you are always going to be safe. You can breathe. And diving itself is not a physical dynamic
activity. It's a very gentle, graceful activity, and the best divers, you hardly see them move their body, yet they're moving beautifully through the water. So it's more about finesse. It's not about being a great swimmer. You've always got air going into your mouth. You can see clearly, as long as you can lie and relax in the water, and we can help you learn how to do that. As long as you think you can do that, you're able to dive. I promise you. I absolutely promise you.
Yeah,
and it's true. It opens up another world. It's just another world, yet another one.
Yeah, and like we'd love to do more diving trips as well. It's it's interestingly, if people are a qualified diver, when they go to different destinations, then it gives you more options of things to do in those destinations. Yeah. I mean, for example, we've got a Jordan trip. At the end of the Jordan trip, you end up in the Red Sea, and there's the opportunity to snorkeling when you're in the Red Sea. Well, if you're already a diver and you've already qualified, rather than going snorkeling, you can just go, well, actually, do you know what? I'm going to go off diving for the day because I'm already qualified. So you've already got that under your belt to go and do it. Interestingly, excuse me, my memories flagged up from last year on my Facebook this morning, and this time last year, Tony and I were flying out to Easter Island, and unfortunately, we didn't have enough time on Easter Island to get everything done we wanted to do, and we were out there with a school group, but we were also doing a bit of a recce for a bucket list trip as well, which was what we were supposed to be launching. We were supposed to be launching it now, but with everything that's going on, we've kind of just put that trip on hold for a little bit. But to go out to Easter Island and drive around Easter Island, you couldn't do it if you do it in qualification. If you go and get the qualification, wherever you go traveling around the world, it just opens up so many more things for you to go and do. I mean, just going back to the question about not great in water, like on the dive trip that we do out to Gozo, we've got, the dive centre's got a swimming pool. So if you are a bit nervous, you're not, mastering the skills that you need, we can just go into the pool and get those skills nailed. Literally just outside of the dive centre is the walk into the water. That's shallow, 3 meters, 4 meters deep. So, you can pretty much, almost stand up on the bottom and your head's just about, almost out the water. And you can, so if you've got any worries, you can just pop straight back up again safely. So we don't let you go into any deep water until you're confident and you're happy. And then once you're happy and confident in shallow water, you don't even notice you're going deeper and deeper until you actually look at your dive gauge and realize, oh my God, there's 10 meters of water above my head. It doesn't really happen. But if we can get the skills nailed in shallow water, then you're just fine, aren't you, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Wonderful. And I think this is going to sound like a joke, and it's not a joke, but we it's like our treks. We do not leave anyone to flounder. Not at all. On the treks, if you can't walk very fast or you're having a bad day, someone will be with you. One of us, one of the guides, and it's the same with the diving. No one's going to let you disappear or go off or become uncomfortable or suddenly start struggling, because there'll be someone there with you and watching you and helping.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where the bucket list company are slightly different to other companies, in the fact that all of our trips are escorted by one of us. Yeah. So we have the support from our in-country guides. So if we think about Everest Base Camp Trek, there could be one or two of us from the bucket list company, plus there's 4 or 5 guides, Nepalese guides as well. So between the team of 16, there's possibly 6-7 guides with you as well. On Kilimanjaro on summit night, we pretty much have one guide to every client. So if there's an issue, you've got your own guide with everybody on summit night for Kilimanjaro. So that's the one thing that we do feel really passionate about, is actually making sure nobody gets left out in that.
Yeah.
So someone's just asked, is the dive training a complete PADI course? Yeah. So on our dive trips, we do a PADI open water course. So it's the 4-day full PADI course. You get the option whether you want to do a PADI course or you want to do a RAID course. RAID's the new qualification, and from a new governing body that's coming in. So quite a lot of dive centres are now moving across to RAID rather than PADI, and we can offer both when we do a course. If people have already got their PADI open water course when they come on, if they want to book on that trip, so we get, again, we had quite a few repeat customers who did the trip last year, and they were supposed to do it again with us this June. They'd already done their PADI open water last year. They were going to come back and do their PADI open water advanced course this year. So yeah, the dive training is completely all included. And then at the end of the trip, you get another 2 or 3 days, depending on how quickly you get through the course, to go out and use the skills you've learned and just go diving. So, it's a great trip from that perspective. Last year, we had brilliant weather on the trip in June, and we went and hired a boat, and the whole group went out and did a day's boat diving off the boat, and we had a full day on the boat. So it was a great day. There's a video on our YouTube channel that shows the whole boat trip and everyone having a great time. So that is, the Gozo trip is probably my favorite non-trekking trip to go and do, just because to me it feels more of a holiday than work on that. Someone asked about America in North America, Central America. We have looked at we've looked at Costa Rica. We are looking at a Costa Rica trip at the minute, and we've been looking at a Grand Canyon trek trip as well. And again, they were all on our marketing plan to push those out at the start of this year. But obviously, with everything that's happened, we're someone just brought me a cup of tea. Look at that, letting you know what was going on. So yeah, we are looking at adding more trips in, and those are destinations at the minute that we don't go to. We've got quite a lot in Africa at the minute. We've got quite a lot in Asia. So we are looking at the Americas, both south and north, and looking at trips as well. So we'll keep your eyes peeled. So we're going to be sort of, God, Dave, this has been the longest one yet. We've been going for 53 minutes on this one. So if you've got any other questions, then please feel free to ask them before we turn off. Someone did say that they received an email from me a couple of days ago with regards to our Awesome August campaign. So we always do our Awesome August campaign, where we bundle a load of stuff together if you book a trip with us. They've asked for an indication of what that might be, and the answer is no. You'll have to wait for the 1st of August, like everybody else. But on 8 o'clock on Saturday, the email will go out explaining all about Awesome August and what that is. So if anyone is watching this now, I know this is counterintuitive, but please don't buy a trip from us before the 1st of August. No. You to be disappointed if you got an email from me on the 1st of August. So again, someone's just asked, really good. We've discussed this one, haven't we, Dave? You might need to ask. Can you read that question, Dave?
We don't do the Corsica north to south trek. It looks fantastic. And I'm sitting here, you guys coming up Appalachian Trail, Corsica, I'm thinking, I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that. We don't do it yet, but it's certainly one that we looked at. We're looking all over the place at these. It's you can only have so many going at once, obviously, and COVID has knocked a hole in not the planning, but actually the execution of some of these. So yeah, it's in the back of our minds. We don't do it currently.
the GR20 would be another great trip, wouldn't it? That's one we've discussed as well, to go and trek the GR20 and do that one. That's on our agenda as well. But like I say, it has only been me in the office for the last nearly 3 months. So things have been put on hold a bit, but all the team are now back, and we're back at full steam now, thinking of planning for the future. So Jay asked a question there about any advice on COVID issues on trips.
Well, I think the first thing is, it's like the trips themselves. I'm desperate for the October Annapurna trip to go on. I mean, lots of repeat clients and customers there, and they're good friends now, and I want to meet them again as well, but we're just in the hands of the Foreign Office. So that's the first block, first thing. And then we did something on self-care a couple of weeks ago in this series, and it'll be self-care plus, really. We know that our guides are scrupulously clean. We won't be employing them otherwise. I'll be driving everybody mad with hand sanitizer and all the rest of it. But at the moment, we just need to follow the advice that we get, and we are truly in limbo. I just think about, and I know people gone off to Spain. Great. What's happened? Tunk, down come the curtain, and they're going into isolation again, or whatever. We've just got to wait and see, and use some common sense when we're out trekking.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it. I mean, we're, as a company, we are planning every trip on our agenda like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Until we're told differently. We've been in discussion with all our leaders. At the minute we carry pulse oximeters to on our trekking trips. We're going to be carrying thermometers to do daily checks on people's temperatures in the group, to make sure that people haven't got a fever or anything, so we can kind of we're confident that we're not carrying it as a group, because you know what it's like, Dave, when if you get a bout of a sickness bug go through, it goes through the group like wildfire, doesn't it? So we're really, we're speaking with all of our in-country providers at the minute about looking at single occupancy in tea houses. So what are the options of us having single occupancy in every tea house, so everyone has their own room? We're looking at what private transport are we using? So we're looking at all of those issues with the in-country providers. They're the ones that I really feel sorry for, because they haven't got the social support that we've got in the UK. They rely wholly on their tourism sector, and it's just been completely wiped for 2020. So they are desperate to get us back. So literally, we are, as soon as we can go, and we can go safely, and there's no risk to our staff, there's no risk to our clients. We will be going. But obviously, we're not going to go against Foreign Office guidelines. If the Foreign Office, all of our flights are booked, but if the Foreign Office say it's not safe to go, our insurance will be, your insurance will be void, and that's just silly. So, we need to think about these things and move forward. But we are literally, reviewing everything on a daily basis. The FCO website is probably the most viewed website of my computer at the minute, I think. So.
Yeah, and mine. And I think I'm glad you raised insurance. I think that's an issue too, is that we will have to be reassured that every client has got insurance that covers them for catching COVID abroad. Because, on some of them, the longer treks in the middle of nowhere, we've got to be sure that we can get you back safely to a hospital, whatever it is you require, or medication. So insurance will be a big thing that we'll be checking.
That was the other day that obviously we advise people to use Campbell Irvine is who we prefer people go with. Obviously, we're not insurance brokers; we can't sell insurance, but we advise people book with Campbell Irvine. We've used Campbell Irvine. We've had to use Campbell Irvine for medevac emergencies in helicoptering people off, so we know how they work. And interestingly, their policy is now changed for and it does include COVID within their policy, which I know a lot of insurance companies are saying that the policy doesn't include COVID. Interestingly, I think my policy went up. I have a yearly policy with Campbell Irvine. And my policy for this year had gone up £30, which I'm assuming is probably to cover that that difference. But when I went, interestingly, I did go and do a quick experiment the other day and just went on to try and book travel insurance for an October Toupcal trip, and it came out for an 18-day trip was £105. And for my yearly was 150. So actually, if you were going to be doing lots of traveling, then it's certainly worthwhile getting a yearly policy. I always advise people to get a yearly policy because it's and the thing as well is it's so many people, like it's one of our biggest bugbears from the girls in the office is chasing people for their insurance details. So we've got them on our system before they go. And the number of people who book their travel insurance, a week before they're due to go on their trip. And, if they broke their leg 3 weeks before the trip, they would be, no money returned, cancelling their trip. But if you just had travel insurance, the moment you book your trip, if anything happened to you, you are covered and you would get your money back. So it's, unfortunately, we've paid out for everything for your trip 3 weeks beforehand. So therefore, there is no refund coming your way. And this is why we advise people to make sure they have travel insurance. So, certainly think about if you haven't got your travel insurance and you've got a trip booked with us now, please go and visit Campbell Irvine's website and get yourself some travel insurance.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
And then someone's just asked, do you have any bucket list merchandise we can buy? All I'm going to say to you is keep an eye out for the Awesome August campaign that's coming out on Saturday, because there might be some pieces in there if you were to book a trip. But no, we don't sell the equipment. Our equipment, we do have offers on sometimes on the trips in bits of kit do get sent out, and that's what makes it so great is that you can't buy the kit. You've got to be given it by us. So it's in demand, our kit. Everyone wants a bucket list company jacket, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I'm always being asked for mine, even by the guides.
Yeah, well, I mean, Gareth lost his to Whitey, didn't he?
I know.
Our Tanzanian guide Whitey came over to see me in January, February time, and Gareth lent him his bucket list jacket, and that bucket list jacket is now appeared back in Tanzania again, and not on Gareth's back. So Gareth lost that one, and Whitey's gained another bucket list jacket. So I think we've covered. I'm just having a quick flick through the questions now, Dave. I think we've kind of pretty much covered everything. I think we've got a bit of work to do and come up with some new trips by the look of it. I've just seen a question here. Someone did ask, they did the Machami route on Killian tents. What's the accommodation like on Elbrus, as the weather I hear is changeable? So when you're on Elbrus, like I said, all of the acclimatization treks from the hotel on the bottom, and you get the cable car up onto the acclimatization treks. And then you stay in the refuge huts the night before you summit. So there is no tentage on the Elbrus trek whatsoever. You'll be pleased to know. But I'm super excited this year because we have got a really nice group going out onto the Elbrus trip. So hopefully they'll have a great success rate on that one. Someone's just asked, are drones allowed on any of your trips? I have no issues with drones on our trips, and I take my drone when I can. It is more a country issue whether you can have the drone rather than an us issue. For example, Nepalese national parks, drones are banned in there. Drones are definitely banned from Morocco. Please do not even attempt to take a drone into Morocco, because you will lose it, or you risk losing it, shall I say. One of our videographers did manage to sneak one in last year on a Sahara trek, and didn't get it confiscated, but they are very hot on drones in your bags. You know, if they in Morocco, if they see a bag of camera kit going through, you literally have your bag scanned before you leave the airport, and if they spot any camera kit in your bag, they will literally go through it like a fine tooth comb. I literally get searched every single time in Marrakesh airport, because I've always got all my camera kit with me. Peru, you're not allowed to use them in Machu Picchu, but you can take them into Peru. I did fly mine through Rainbow Mountain last year. You're not allowed them on Kilimanjaro. And to be honest, drones aren't that great on altitude either. They tend to get quite confused at altitude. But yeah, if the country we go to accepts them, then mine will be in my bag as well. So you can take a drone on the trip. Anything else to add, Dave?
No, I think that's pretty much it, really. I'm glad we're answering questions.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much come to an end there. That's all the questions answered, I think. So, well, that's the longest one we've done, Dave. That was an hour.
Okay.
So we'll have a think next Monday about what we'll talk about next week.
Yeah.
Thanks ever so much, guys, and we'll catch up and see you soon.
Cheers. Bye.